There we go. Susan Michelle, this mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michel. I am here in Western Massachusetts. I am the author of Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to talk about. And I'm here with David Fishman, Dove, who is like an amazingly beautiful, wise teacher. And every time I speak with him, I get so much clarity. How are you doing today, Dove?
Really good. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thanks, Suzanne. Appreciate
Yeah, thank you so much for speaking with me. And then my friend Sherry is here too. I love, love, love her so much. She is my Course in Miracles sister. And we have been on this path together for so many years, and we've supported each other in our ups and our downs. How are you, Sherry?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having
So,
me.
yeah, thank you for coming. I'm so happy you're here. And also I see Zulma in the room. Zulma, please feel free to share if you have anything to contribute because you're so wise and I always learn so much from you as well. So and anyone who is here, you're more than welcome to share. So today the workbook lesson for students is lesson number 19 because it is January 19th. So if you started the workbook for students on the 1st, today is the 19th day of January. It's pretty easy for me to keep track in January. After that, sometimes I get a little confused, but it's a very powerful lesson. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. And what it does is it reminds us that we are all connected. And I think, and I've been listening to different teachers on YouTube talk about it this morning. That's kind of like a daily ritual that I do. I listen to Course in Miracles directly. I listen to different teachers interpret it. I mean, every different teacher has pearls of wisdom to help me embody that truth. I think what's one of the many things that are so beautiful about that lesson is that we are all connected. We are never alone. We are all part of the sonship. So when I can see any situation from a place of love, not only do I benefit, other parts of the sonship benefit as well. What do you think, Dove?
Well, exactly what you just said. I just put on the chat a commentary by Kenneth Wapnick, who was my teacher, on lesson 19, the one that you're referring to, today's lesson. And this is what well, the name of the lesson is I'm Not Alone in Experiencing the Effects of My Thoughts. And Ken comments, Jesus extends the idea of one split mind, saying that not only are our minds joined, but our minds and the world are joined as well. The world being nothing but the projection of the mind's thought of separation. So we believe that we're separate from our Father who created us. So the projection of the belief in separation made a world that seemed to be separate from us, outside of us, and that's all this world is a projection of separation. And my latest, if anyone's interested, I sent it out to anyone who wants it. It's called Waking with Laughing, and Ken Wapnick. It's Ken Wapnick's workshop, which was never released before. It was just released last Friday, as a matter of fact, in which he says if you want to, as long as you take anything in this world seriously, you're listening to the ego, because the ego takes the belief in separation very seriously, because that's how it lives. But if you can smile and laugh at it, you're not listening to the ego. And he takes that from the chapter 27 on dreams. Into eternity crept a tiny mad idea in which the Son of God remembered not to laugh. He took it seriously, and he's still taking it seriously. And recently, I've been thinking, and I've been sharing actually yesterday and today, that the things I still take seriously are just my own belief in that I did something wrong, or it's really a belief in guilt, and I still can't laugh at me doing something wrong. So that's my opening share. Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, I know. Guilt can really get us. Um, it's at each and every moment we have a choice. We can think clearly and extend God's love. And I love that line. The separation occurred when the Son of God forgot to laugh. I mean, laughter is so therapeutic. And when I guess when we think of God, we can think of him as a comedian, if that brings us peace, love, joy, and happiness. I had a trigger. I always say your name first up, whether you're here or not, when I say the word trigger, because you always remind me that triggers are our teachers. And okay, so one of my triggers has to do with the fact that I hate criticism. And this happened just a couple days ago. I really am a perfectionist, which is another character defect, I know. But I think the reason I took on the role of being a perfectionist is because I hate criticism. Because, which is neither here nor there, it really doesn't matter anymore. But my earthly father was extremely critical. So anytime I feel criticized, something inside me, my heart just tenses. And so it was at the nursing home. I've been there a year, believe it or not. It's definitely time to move on. However, it's been a nice learning lesson, but I had my annual evaluation and I got a pass or fail on each bullet point that was read to me. So it was probably about 66% pass, 33% fail, or 75% pass, 25% fail. All I know is there were many more failures than I would have liked to receive. And when I heard the explanation of why I didn't pass certain points, I did not agree with what my supervisor was conveying to me. So I just kind of sat there. And what I have a tendency to do is either lash out or shut down. I know that about myself because my father projected his fear. My mother internalized her fear. So I shut down and internalized my fear. And there was a lot of like stress and anxiety going on internally as this evaluation was being presented to me. And at the end of the evaluation, I went back to the activity room in which I work, and I had a lot of discombobulated emotions. So I went outside and prayed and tried to call my husband, but he was in a meeting, so I couldn't get through. And then I decided to, even though I was tempted to quit because the emotions were so prevalent, I decided to stick it out because I don't like to do things when I'm very upset. So I went back in, I finished my day. The next day, my supervisor was really, really nice to me because I don't think she wants me to quit. And she knew I was upset about my evaluation. Again, going back to the basic Course in Miracles principle, there's no one else there. This is just something within me, that needs to be healed. Like I know all that. However, when it's happening, happening. I can feel the unhealed emotions well up inside of me. And then going back to that point you made about the separation occurred when the Son of God forgot to laugh. Last night, right before I was going to sleep, I kind of brought this up to my husband, and about the bad evaluation. And then he just started making jokes about it. He's very funny, and he just started making jokes about it, saying, I'm not really that the evaluation was clear in terms of my performance. However, it's a bad fit for me being there in the first place. And he just made jokes and jokes and jokes. It's hard for me to relay it in a funny way now, but I do know just laughing about something that was so painful 3 days ago was extremely healing. I think laughter is the best medicine for any of these triggers that we experience in life, because today I'm taking the whole situation much more lightly. Any thoughts on any thoughts as on laughter, when it comes to painful events in our life?
Well, I was going to invite Sherry. Sherry, do you want to share on this?
Yes. Well, you know what? It takes a lot, to laugh sometimes, but if you can see the humor in it, it does make a difference. I mean, it does lighten things up and make you realize that, okay, you're the one person that's criticizing yourself, or you're the one person that's beating up yourself. So if you can actually laugh at yourself and realize that we all go through different things, and we're sometimes, like you said, our own worst critics. So if we can lighten up on ourselves and realize that hey, I mean, if you can laugh at yourself, then the world laughs with you.
Very good. Soma, did you want to share something?
I did. For me, I can't laugh in that moment. There's no laughter in that moment. I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling, but that's the time. That's the time to remember what I've learned. That's the time to remind myself that my worth is not established by anything that they're saying, anything it's not worth by their evaluations, that my worth is established by God. And remembering that, what am I learning from this? This is a learning experience for me, as Dove talked about the triggers. This is a learning experience for me. What do I learn from this? And you said a lot. You went back to your father and your mother, and one internalized and one projected, and all that, and all that. And the Course tells us to resign as our own teacher. Resign as our own teacher. And what has happened is that we've accepted this misinformation that we were given from our mothers, from our fathers, and we've taken it on as our own. It's time to decide, I get to parent me now. I get to be my parent now. And perfection, yeah, you really are perfect because your spirit. This is the time. This is the time to have those mantras, those lessons that start running through our head. Write them down on a notepad, on a Post-it. And I need to see this differently. I had a situation this morning. I was talking earlier, and I'm driving my car and I'm talking loud. Oh, Spirit, I really need to see this differently. Please help me see this different. I was really was in that space. I want to see this differently. I want to see this differently because this is me thinking that I am being unfairly treated. This is me thinking, as Sherry just said, this is me. I'm doing this to myself. All of this is me. There's nothing. No, she didn't want you to quit. No, I mean, and what purpose would that really serve? Because you're still going to walk away with all those thoughts, But that's the time to remember. I want to see this differently. I need to see this differently. I want to see this differently. Spirit, help me to see this differently. I can see this differently. I am not. My worth is not established by what's going on. My worth is not established by their evaluations. My worth is established by God. I am good at my job, and it was more highs than lows. And funny because you focus on the lows. You focus on the low numbers as opposed to the high numbers. Wow, I'm 75%. I'm in gratitude. I'm 75% such and such. And here's 25% area for improvement. That's all it is. It's not nothing wrong. It's just an area for improvement. Now you have something to work on. Otherwise, you'd be bored. It's like if you're the wisest person in the room, then you need a you need new people to hang out with. Same thing. The 75 was great, and congratulations on the 75 this and the 66 that. Congratulations, and congratulations on the 25 and the 33, because now you get to learn more, you get to experience more, and gratitude. I'm complete.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I'll say a few things that came up for me when everybody was sharing. Uh, I'm really just like you, Susan. I really don't like to be criticized either. So that's part of me. But I mean, I've always known that. But now that I've kind of matured and evolved in a way, and I recognize that, of course, the ego hates to be criticized. So who am I identifying with if I can't really laugh at the fact that somebody is criticizing me? I can't laugh because I'm identifying with the ego. The ego is not going to laugh at all. Ego is not going to laugh at all. You got to you have to be willing to say, is there another way of seeing this? Which is what Zoma says. Is there another way of seeing this? So the part of me that identifies with the ego likes to be special, and specialness requires comparison. So comparison is how the ego literally lives. The ego lives, that's a line in the Course in Miracles. The ego lives by comparing itself. And if, God forbid, somebody criticizes me, I mean, that's like the death knell. Someone is killing me. I mean, you mean I'm not special? I'm less than special? So you start to smile and laugh at the fact that the only reason I can't smile and laugh is I'm identifying with the only thing that believes in guilt, which is the ego. And I can't laugh at something that if I'm not good and something is wrong with me, how can I laugh? But it's not me. It's not Dove. Dove is not this person that you see in the mirror in the morning. God created spirit. He didn't create Dove. So back over to you, Susan.
Well, I love what everybody said. Thank you for commenting on my story. I think sometimes when I'm in the midst of uncomfortable circumstances, it's really interesting what is happening, because I had another trigger that I spoke a little bit about on Monday. And this again goes back to a core childhood pain point. I have my past pretty well psychoanalyzed, which is, I think it's helpful in a way to understand where some of these painful emotions come from. But the only way to get past them is to let them go. I had this situation where I was out to dinner with some friends, and because of the way the table was designed, we kind of were sitting in a row as opposed to facing each other. The restaurant was really loud, and the girl in the middle had to twist her neck to either side so she couldn't speak to both me and my other friend at the same time. So it was a really unusual table setting. And what happened to me is when the woman in the middle was talking to the lady on the other side, I felt left out. I felt ignored. And it's interesting too, because intellectually, I knew that they weren't leaving me out on purpose. They weren't ignoring me on purpose. It was just the table set up. I loved both of these other women very much. And I knew intellectually that this was a trigger, but there was a separation between my intellect and my feelings. There was just a big separation. In my head, I knew that I wasn't being left out on purpose, but in my heart, these old feelings started to arise. And again, this goes back to when I was a child. I was all alone on the playground, and I had no one to play with. So this is like a core pain point. So again, my head was saying, you know, all is well, God loves me, my friends love me, I love my friends, and my heart was experiencing a lot of emotions. So I excused myself, went into the bathroom, prayed on the toilet, came back to the table, and it did sort itself out. It was interesting because after the dinner, my friend brought it up, not me, and it did sort itself out. But I guess, you know, and even since then, I've gone into my morning meditation. I've gone back to that time on the playground in elementary school when I was all alone by the fence with no one to play with. You know, I do different visualization exercises. One is to hug that wounded inner child and tell her that I'm there for her. Another visualization exercise that I've tried is to just change the past. So I don't know if, you know, to see myself not standing alone by the fence, because it's only a memory now, it's not really happening, but to see myself, you know, on the playground playing with all the other children, not being excluded at all. I guess we can erase the past and rewrite the past if we want to. I mean, maybe that would create a more loving future. I know when I'm in the midst of uncomfortable feelings, it's challenging. I guess the healthiest choice I can make, I think, is to give it to God. I mean, Sherry and I came up with a 4P process that I love, 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 and I try to use it whenever possible. You know, when we're being triggered, instead of react, pause, own the pain, process the pain, and then pray and give it to God. So it's not about blaming external circumstances. It's about taking responsibility so we can release that pain point. Any thoughts?
Yes, I put my thoughts in the chat.
Zoma too has, oh, I haven't been reading the chat. Yeah, this is very wise. Zilma wrote, nobody likes to be criticized. If I'm taking it personally, then I can't learn from the constructive criticism I'm being given. I think that was from the last scenario, keywords I felt. And Dove said, ego, who we have appointed as our defense minister, will always see I am left out and take it as insulting. That's ego's nature. So when I'm seeing it from the eyes of the ego, or when I'm seeing anything other than love, I'm not seeing clearly. Since I exclude others, I will feel excluded. When I include others, I feel included. It's all about me. It's all about me. Yeah, Zoma.
There's a passage in the course, and I'm putting it in the chat, that healing cannot be accomplished in the past. It cannot. It must be accomplished in the present to release the future. This interpretation ties the future to the present and extends the present rather than the past. That whole story, which is wonderful, about picturing yourself playing with the children and all that. It's a good story, but at the end of the story, you come back to, oh, but that didn't really happen. So, you know, it's like the fact that that you had playground time. I was an only child, so I can relate to that. I can relate to that very well. Um, but I used to say lonely child, only child, only child, only child. Um, and then I actually learned to become my best friend because the one person that I'm always with is me. Um, and we can't go back. We can't. There's no point in trying to make up a story because at that time we were making up a story about being left out. They don't want to play with me, and the course says that the only thing that's missing is what we don't give. What's missing is what we don't give. Um, a woman, I heard her say the other day, yeah, I always wondered, I was always worried about people not coming up to me to talk to me, and then I realized that if I want them to talk to me, I need to go talk to them, that sort of thing. So, I mean, and if that means going to a playground and sitting with parents and watching children play, that you can do now. That you can do, and that would be quote, quote, real for this time. But healing can't be accomplished in the past. You can't. It's just not going to happen. That's my thought about that. And as far as I felt the feeling, when you were saying that you felt left out, you felt this, you felt that. That's what you kept saying. I felt like I was left out. I felt like intellectually I knew, but I felt, and that's the time. That, oh, wait a minute, I'm feeling this. And what was funny, which was good that you said that you went in the bathroom, you prayed about it, you came back, and then it worked itself out. So the prayer was answered because the other person had mentioned it. You said it was all happening. It's all for our learning. It really, really is all for our learning. Um, but yeah, I've had instances where I've tried to, go back, and you can't go back. That's wish world. And I say, wish world is not a real place. Wish world is not a real place. So, and then the course says that fantasy is a distorted form of reality, trying to distort reality. We can't go back and make up a story, and that's really what it is, that we wish that it had been different back then. But what can I do today? That's really what it comes down to. What can I do today? How can I make myself feel good today based on what I can do today? I'm complete.
I remember one time years ago, I was in therapy and I decided to rent a car. I was living in New York City and drive it to my elementary school playground, which was in New Jersey. And this was years ago, and I was just trying to connect with those old painful feelings in order to heal them. And as an adult, walking around the playground, it wasn't the same. Like it didn't spark any old emotions. The playground didn't even seem the same as when I was a child. So my idea of going to the actual playground to reconnect with those old feelings of exclusion and heal them didn't really work. Um, so I think the way out of those feelings, yeah, I mean, I always do quote Araya, the Invitation poem that I believe in. It's about owning the feelings, taking responsibility for the feelings. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without trying to hide or fade or fix them. But then forgive, forgive those other children on the playground who I thought excluded me. But ultimately, it's not about forgiving them. It's about forgiving me. Forgiveness is the way out of any uncomfortable scenario. Forgiveness sets us free. And I incorporate forgiveness in my morning meditations. I think of different people who I feel wronged by, who I have grievances towards. In my meditation, I hug them and forgive them. But ultimately, I know it's any forgiveness is about self-forgiveness. Today, I heard on A Course in Miracles Audible, the only way to find peace is through complete forgiveness. So by holding on to grievances of any kind, it's not about hurting the other person. The only person that gets hurt is ourself. So that's a very true and empowering lesson. Forgiveness is not needed in heaven, and heaven is just a state of mind, because in heaven, nobody is condemned. Forgiveness is needed here in this earthly classroom because it's our way out of hell as it is presently manifest. And I can say it over and over and over. And intellectually, I feel like I've been able to talk a good story for a number of years. But emotionally, to embody that principle is always challenging. The Course in Miracles is not easy, but it is simple. The simple truth. I know Sherry has said that frequently, the simple truth. And I love that. Dove.
Okay, yeah. So, as you say, you can talk the talk, but talking the talk will never really give you the experience until you walk the walk, which means you really don't have to go back into the past, visit your old schoolyard. As Sherry wrote in the chat, being open to change in the present will allow God to work through us, because it's always the present. Whenever you go into the past or the future, you're asking the ego to be your teacher, because the ego lives in time. We, on the other hand, you mentioned heaven. Heaven is a place where it's timeless. Time does not exist in heaven. We are always one. It's like we're homogenous. We are all the same. So nothing happens in heaven in which there's either a problem or something to forgive, exactly as you say, because we are all one, equal, the same, all are included equally. So the things that we talk about here in this schoolroom, in this classroom called the world or earth, doesn't happen in heaven. But we come here as a classroom to learn the lessons that we need to learn. And the lesson that, exactly as you say, is I'm doing this to myself. I am doing this to myself. That's the secret of salvation. And if you recognize I'm doing it to myself, you say, well, who are those people out there that somehow I don't get along with? Well, I mentioned this a few times. I'll say it again. Chapter 29, section 4, called Dream Roles. The people in my dream, in my play, in my classroom, who are my teachers, people that are triggering me, that are pushing my buttons, I have asked them to do that so I can learn that I am not separate and different. I am one with them. But someone has to push your buttons for you to get to the place where you ask the question, why is this happening to me? And of course, we always say, instead of asking, why is this happening to me, ask, what is the lesson that I've come here to learn? And that's how you use that phrase, be grateful for the people who are triggering you, because that's how you reveal your own mistaken beliefs. And as you know, I see a belief as a lie. We actually think, well, I'm special, I'm different, I'm better. Why do those people do? There's no people out there. There's me doing it to me. That's the secret of salvation. Back over to you, Susan. I
You're
You're
muted.
muted,
muted.
Susan.
You
Anyone
muted.
else yeah, thank you. Anyone else who wants to share, just feel free to jump in or raise your hand, because I love to hear everybody's thoughts on our topics that we're bringing up. my talk about the dream. We're here. This earth is a classroom, and we're here to learn lessons. And I do believe that my earthly father played a role in setting up lessons for me to learn. I think I was talking to, I mean, I do believe in reincarnation, and I know Course in Miracles doesn't take a stance on that topic, but I do believe in reincarnation. And in this lifetime, in my childhood, my dad projected a lot of his fear onto me. I believe he did, I mean, but I think it all served a purpose, because it set the stage for the lessons that I came here to learn. I think by overcoming those pain points, that's where a lot of healing for my soul lies. I also think in other lifetimes, I think I might have projected a lot of my fear onto him. I don't, I think somebody mentioned that to me once, and it just kind of makes sense. But my father and I seem to have a lot in common, and I do love him very much. Um, he is now passed. He passed about 2 years ago. But the triggers, I guess, from the past still pop up. It's not about him anymore. It's about me and my lessons. I know I've brought his name up quite a few times recently, because he had a lot of really great qualities as well. Um, Death is another kind of fascinating subject that I've been thinking about. I had a good friend of mine, her brother passed away recently. I work in a nursing home where people are constantly passing away. It's interesting how that works. And just this was like a really nice scenario that I experienced at the nursing home. There was one lady in her 80s, I believe, not that that's old, but that was her end of life. And she was within 24 hours of her passing, her son told me, because her son was right next to her in when she was sleeping in the bed. And he told me that this was probably the last day of her life, and she was never without a family member being next to her. The nurses were doing their best to keep her comfortable, to keep the doorway through her room clear. And I looked at her. I guess this is what happened with me. I looked at her, and from what I was being told, she was dying. She was in the process of dying. She was in the process of transitioning from, this body, the body that she was in now, to, going back to her true state, which is one of spirit. And I did not feel sorry for her. I felt, I guess, joyful in a way. Like I kind of thought that she was in the midst of a beautiful transition, because her body was no longer working. She couldn't hear, she couldn't get out of bed. Her body was no longer working. She had dementia. There were a lot of, and it was time for her to leave. So I guess I think what was beautiful for me is I saw her passing, but it wasn't a sad event. Like, I didn't feel sorry for her. I strongly believe that whenever we feel sorry for someone else, it's like a condescending way to see them. But I felt like it was a beautiful kind of transformational period that she was experiencing. I don't know. There was a state of joy that I connected to. Um, because it's going to happen to all of us. We're all going to transition. A lot of times I think death is harder for the people left behind. The souls that are experiencing, the death, they just go up to dance with the angels in heaven. I don't know if that's a simplistic way of seeing death, but I think whenever I remember when my mother was dying, my mom died at a very young age. She was only 53 years old. And I remember my father stood at the doorway and he kept saying, "Poor Oat, poor Oat." My mother's name was Oat. It was Norwegian. And he felt very sorry for her. My dad had a way of feeling sorry for other people. And for myself, I feel like whenever I'm feeling sorry for myself, I'm feeling something within myself that has not yet been healed. So I was happy that I was able to see the joy in the death process. Any thoughts?
Lots of thoughts.
Soma, please.
I'm going to go where you started, back to your father. And I'm going to use my stepfather. When my stepfather passed, I hated him, hated him, hated him, hated him. And I came to realize when the course talks about what idols are, he was one of my idols. He was, because he was gone, body, I was angry when he passed. My mother and I were supposed to be leaving for Puerto Rico, 7 hours from the time that he passed. And I was, oh my God, I was hot. But that it lingered. That hatred lingered. Him passing did nothing to make that, what I was feeling before that, go away. And it wasn't until I actually sat and started typing on a word processor. You know how far back I'm going, right? I was typing on a word processor about, this, basically I was giving myself a therapy session. I didn't know that that was what it was, because I hadn't gone to therapy yet. But I was giving myself a therapy session. I started typing because the pain was so intense. I had to get it out. I had no way I couldn't go talk to mom about it. There was nobody to talk about it to. Nobody wants to hear that. Oh, they're gone. What's your problem? You know what I mean? So I'm writing this letter, and in the letter, I resolved it. In the letter, because I was saying, well, just because such and such happened to you, that doesn't mean that you had to da da da. And then, I mean, I'm crying. All that. And then I stopped and I started reading the letter. And right there, I saw that place. Just because that happened to you, that's why you were doing this, that, and the other. And I mean, I saw it differently right there during the letter. Um, um, the whole death thing. I heard you say that your father said he feels sorry for, but again, it starts with I feel, I feel, I feel. He was feeling sorry. End of sentence, actually, and projecting that onto your mom. It's really all about, when my mother passed, they gave me a little book and it was called Gone from My Sight. And that's the words I use today. Not gone, just from my sight. I can talk anytime I want. I get answers, which is amazing. Um, and I get answers. So I'm clear that nothing dies. Nothing actually dies. And when the body transitions, where does that go? Where do those ashes go? Where does that go? It can't go anywhere. There's no God, and everything is still part of, it's here somewhere. You know what I mean? So, and I'm clear on that, but only just gone from my sight. That energy, Einstein says that we're all energy, and we're taught energy was never born, can't die, so it's always here. Um, and that's that. I'm comfortable with and yeah, it is for the living, because there were, I miss, sitting here talking to mom, and listening to her favorite song, and laughing and crying when it was playing, and us dancing and all that stuff. Sure, but those memories are mine. That I get to keep, and the physical death experience can't do anything about that. That I get to keep. And in chapter 5, section 4, paragraph 8, which actually corresponds to the date my mother passed, it says, only the beauty is what's left. Let the other stuff go, because when I went to therapy, it was about my mother. So that's a whole other story. Just, let the stuff go because it's gone anyway. It's already gone. So I may as well hold on to the parts that are good for me, that make me happy, that bring me joy. And I see what Dove put in the chat. If you die before you die, you don't die when you die. We're considering ourselves dead already. Can't live if living is without you. That's making idols of people. And idols will always fail. That's in chapter 29, the section of the Antichrist. Idols will always fail. They have to because they're temporary. I'm grateful for some of the stuff that's temporary. I'm grateful, that for what I didn't have to, any continual experiences that were painful to me. And I'm grateful for the experiences that I had and the lessons that I've learned from it. I'm complete.
The only thing that's real is the love. I love that you said that, Zulma. The only thing that's real is the love. And I wrote in my book, in the chapter entitled Freedom Through Forgiveness, there was this movie that really, I thought, had a big Course in Miracles component to it. It was called American Beauty, and it's a 1999 classic movie with Kevin Spacey. And I guess I should say, spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about the end of the movie right now, but it was so profound. It was when Kevin Spacey's character got shot in the back of the head, and it kind of showed him going to heaven, leaving his body. And he had this monologue about what the experience was like. And during the movie, there were so many dramatic events. His wife, that was played by Annette Bening, cheated on him with another man. His daughter was really pissed off at him. I mean, he gave up his high-powered CEO position for a job at a fast food restaurant because he was so disillusioned, I guess, by the corporate lifestyle. But the movie showed so many horrible events. And then at the end of the movie, he got shot in the back of the head. What a horrible ending to a horrible life, right? I mean, that's kind of what we're thinking. But then he gave this monologue, and I copied the words down. I guess I could be pretty pissed off about what happened to me, but it's hard to stay mad when there's so much beauty in the world. Sometimes I feel like I'm seeing it all at once and it's too much. My heart fills up like a balloon that's about to burst. And then I remember to relax and stop trying to hold on to it. And then it flows through me like rain, and I can't feel anything but gratitude for every single moment of my stupid little life. You have no idea of what I'm talking about, I'm sure, but don't worry, you will someday. And then I wrote, no matter what happens, the only thing that ultimately endures is love that is shared. The pain dissipates and turns out to be nothing but an illusion. And then I have a quote here from A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles states that to forgive is merely to remember only the loving thoughts you gave in the past and those that were given you. All the rest must be forgotten. Forgiveness is a selective remembering based not on your selection. So I think that's such a beautiful depiction of a clear, true way to see our life. The only thing that we ultimately remember is the love. And just to kind of erase the rest, I mean, that's not about distorting reality. That's about seeing reality as it truly is. Because A Course in Miracles is saying, the only thing that's real is the love. Has anyone in here ever seen The American Beauty? Do you remember anything about that movie,
I
Dove?
don't remember it. I don't remember it, but I'm going to watch it. Just looking to see where it's playing. It's on Amazon. I'm going to watch it today.
I do remember the movie as excellent. You gave a beautiful review of it. Obviously, I never expected you to include the monologue, but yeah, it's a story of the American family. You know, he's chasing some young girl. His wife is cheating. It's always something that, but he sees beauty. He sees beauty on in lieu of all the stuff. He sees beauty. I want to make one comment. You mentioned that that your father passed a couple of years ago, and you said, I think it's harder on the people that remain than the people that left. Well, for sure, that is true. When Eckhart Tolle was asked by Oprah, what's the experience when you finally leave your body? And he said, it's like taking off a pair of shoes many sizes too small for you. So obviously the people that are released aren't feeling the pain. In the Jewish faith, there's a service called Yiska services, which the family and the relatives and the friends of the dearly departed enter into this prayer for about 15 or 20 minutes. But the prayer is not for the dead. Only the ego prays for the dead. The prayer is for the living, not for the dead. So yes, it's much more difficult for the members of the family who lost somebody than for the one who's lost. He's just returning home. That's all.
And it's not lost. And that's the thing. I never say that. No, nothing is ever lost. Nothing is ever lost. And that's also why the Course says that we are to rest in peace. That's for the living too. We are to rest in peace and gratitude that they don't have to, if I had to have my mother, if I had to have my mother alive again, it would have to be the way I last saw her. And I wouldn't want that. That was not, it was hospice. It was nothing, I wouldn't want that. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my memories. I'm grateful for all of it. I get to rest in peace, knowing that she's, physically no pain, that sort of thing. But I am going to watch that movie. Another good movie is also Collateral Beauty with Will Smith. Collateral Beauty. Yeah, and after you see it, Susan, I'm going to put my information in the chat for you. I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear what you think of the movie.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Thank you. Yeah, there's so many thoughts I have. I was talking to my sister last night on the phone, and I shared the my thoughts about death with her, and she shared a podcast with me, how an author was on this podcast speaking about how she had her daughter in her arms when her daughter died. Her daughter died young. She had her mother in her arms when her mother died. And she felt very peaceful during both of these passings. She could feel that these souls were going to a peaceful place. I mean, there's so many stories about that, about how people, I've heard many Course in Miracles teachers talk about how souls leave their body, they feel peace, love, joy, and happiness, and then sometimes they realize that they have to come back to earth to go back into their body because there's lessons that they have not finished, and they get kind of upset about the fact that they have to come back to this earthly plane because it's so great in this other place. So I have a lot of I have a lot of thoughts on death that are very positive and very joyful. In terms of remembering only the love, when I do talk about my dad, when I do think about my father. You know, my dad had a great sense of humor. He was a really funny guy. He had a very dry sense of humor, you know, and he had me in hysterics so many times as a child. And you know, some of the statements that he made at the end of his life, I think he was a little humorous even when he wasn't trying to be humorous, you know. My sister and I kept asking him where he wanted to be buried. We tried to ask him, you know, before the dementia progressed too far. We were thinking of shipping him off to Norway because my mother was buried in Norway, and to put her in a plot next to her. We were thinking of different, you know, ways that we could bury his body. So I think I asked him like 3 or 4 times, and every time I asked him, Daddy, what do you want us to do with your body? He said the exact same thing. I don't care. I'll be dead. You know, 3 or 4 times the exact same answer. I don't care. I'll be dead. So we ended up burying him in a veteran cemetery, and it was a very nice cemetery. But when I do think of him now, I mean, most of the time I smile and I miss him. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I had him as my father, because there were good times and they were challenging times, but he provided the perfect lessons for me to learn. So I'm grateful for that.
And once you learn them, you can let them go. I got it. All right. Next. How do I replace that? Because we're always, you know, we're undoing, but then we're redoing. We're undoing that past and giving ourselves and filling in the love, filling in what we believe was missing, where we thought we were lacking. We're filling that in. That's the good part, that we have that gift to see it differently, to know the truth, that these stories that these stories that we have let cause us pain, we now can turn into a new story with the truth. Yeah. My
Wow, that's
information's in the chat. Please make
beautiful.
sure you write it down. Put
Oh,
my info in the chat. Put my info
That's
in the chat.
beautiful. It's good. So
yes.
good that we can make those choices in the moment. And, you know, it feels good when we know that, you know, we can choose to be happy, and we can connect with our loved ones all the time. They're there for us. That's beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
It is beautiful. And I have Zulma's contact information. Thank you so much, Zulma. I'll definitely let you know what I think about Collateral Beauty. Do you know, can I find that on Redbox or Prime Video, or do you have any idea where to find that?
I don't know, but at worst, it'll cost you $2.99 to rent it.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. So on that note, it is 2 o'clock. Thank you, Dove. Thank you, Zulma. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
This was such a beautiful, beautiful time together. It always helps
Thank
me to
you.
remember how much love is available to me at each and every moment. I love you all.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
I
me
always
too.
end with the Course in Miracles introduction. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. The only thing that's real is the love. So thank you. Thank you. And I'll
Thank you.
return the microphone to Len.
Thank you so much, Susan Michelle. And what a beautiful session. Thanks everyone for joining in. It